Now, for more on the inauguration and some of Trump's executive orders, let's bring in Barbara Findlay. She is a queer rights lawyer and a member of the group Lawyers Against Transphobia. Barbara, thanks for joining us today.
I'm very pleased to be here.
President Trump today announced his intention to roll back DEI and transgender rights, and in particular declared that the U.S. government will only recognize now two biological sexes, male and female. How are you and those you work with responding to what you heard?
Well, first of all, it's horrifying that a head of state would enact legislation targeting people in the population. Trans folk in the United States and here are really afraid and shocked, as are everybody who's concerned about equality rights.
When you say here, you mean people in Canada as well as the U.S.?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, because it's happening here also.
Yeah. I want to get to that in just a moment, but the order, if put into action, is expected to cut off federal funding for gender-affirming medical treatments. Why, and particularly in the U.S., is that significant?
Well, it's significant because many trans folk require medical care, and it is no more acceptable to deny care to, for example, trans people than it is, as a parallel example, to outlaw abortion, because it's an intervention in the relationship between an individual and their healthcare provider by the state.
Are there options for people who live in the United States where state law, local law could take precedence over federal law in this case?
That's a complicated legal question, and it would depend on where you are and what they're up to. So I think the answer is maybe.
Mm-hmm. Your work is centered here in Canada, but do you have a sense of how this would shake out at certain state levels?
It's already shaking out at state levels. Last year, there were more than 500 anti-trans bills in the United States, and there are already more than 100 in 2025. So Trump is in some ways following, not leading, state rights on that question.
Are you concerned, you hinted at this earlier, mentioning Canada, are you concerned we could see a similar rollback here in Canada, and where are you concerned about that?
It's already happened and is happening. The most, I suppose, egregious example is Scott and Moe in Saskatchewan enacted legislation which required teachers to out trans students to their parents, regardless of the students' consent. And because some parents are actively or would be actively unsupporting of a trans kid, this makes life very, very dangerous for trans youth. The courts overturned that law because it violated the Charter of Rights, the equality rights of trans youth. So Scott Moe took a step further, and he invoked the notwithstanding clause in the charter. And exactly what that clause means is this: notwithstanding that you might have had equality rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the country, I am invoking my right to override those equality rights and pass this legislation. It's a section of the charter which is almost never used to ban equality related or to have an impact on equality rights.
What advice are you giving or would you offer to people in the United States and here in Canada when they hear about what Donald Trump is enacting, at least through executive order at this point?
Well, that's a really, really hard question. It actually, what it does is it reminds me of my life as a young lesbian before our rights were protected anywhere. And that life, I think, will become the life of many trans people. And that is, you go in the closet, you come out only to people in your immediate trusted circle, and you avoid anything that you can predict might put you at risk. And for some people, that's not going to be enough.
Barbara Findlay, last question. We appreciate your time. Do you expect that you may see more a portion of trans people in the United States consider moving, whether it be to Canada, whether it be to other places, to avoid what may be coming down for them?
I do. I think that for people for whom that's an option, it would certainly be something that folks would consider.
Barbara Findlay, we appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.